What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Gouache Universe podcast on film. I'm that comic book artist that discusses comics, movies, and science fiction news, all while changing the universe, one subject at a time. So we're back with episode 4 of X-Men 97, Motendo and Life Death. And I'm joined again by my special guest, Teddy. How you doing, man?
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good,
I'm doing
good,
well.
good to have you here, man. So let's just jump right into it, man. What is your overall? Well, first of all, before we do anything, before we do this, did you or did you not, after this episode aired, did you go back and dig up all your Marvel vs. Capcom games, your X-Men arcade games? What was the one that they talked about that they showed in the clip? Remember the X-Men game that came out? I think it was back. This is way back. This is a deep cut. This came out back in, I think, like 92, 93. I think it was called just basically X-Men. It was for the Sega Genesis, and
Yeah,
it was like a side scroller. You remember that one?
I remember that, but I never got to play it. I played the arcade one. I don't know which version that was, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it definitely brought back so much nostalgia, man. I
Yeah, man.
was,
I gotta
I,
be honest, man. I after the episode aired, I kind of went to my what they actually had the game on Xbox 360 a while back where you were able to download it from Xbox Live. And so
mm,
I was able to get X-Men Arcade before. I think that was right around the time that Disney bought Marvel. And this was just after Disney bought Marvel. And so they had the game on there before that. And so
mm,
when Disney bought Marvel, for some reason, whatever type of legal rights or whatever, they took the game off of Xbox Live. But
mm.
I still had the download. So a lot of people missed out on that
Oh
download.
wow,
So it's kind of like I'm kind of like brag to my friends about, having that game where, you can't really get it anywhere else unless you
right?
from like, arcade one up or something like that. But anyway, that's a deep cut, just to kind
Yeah,
of back.
that's a rare gem right there. I don't
Yo,
think kids today understand. Like we had it good, man, with
yeah,
the different consoles and the different tributes to the comics and seeing kind of the 6-bit version of
oh,
the
oh
X-Men
man,
in the
yeah, yeah. Oh,
arcade.
but that Marvel vs. Capcom, just the animation, whew, that's we can talk about this forever. But let's jump into this episode. But I said all that to say this episode, I'll let you go into it, but just the first episode was the part of this was Motendo. What did you think about the overall episode?
I so it met all my expectations. I know previously when we talked, and I mentioned this to my wife when we were watching, I was like, I'm waiting for Mojo World, like a reference of some kind. I mean, we got to see, what's her name? I keep forgetting her name. The one with the
Pyro,
four, yeah, Pyro,
Pyro.
Spiral. Sorry. Um, Seeing her by being transformed, when Morph transformed into her, it kind of was like a little sprinkle of oh, we
Yeah,
haven't forgotten about Mojo World, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, and I was waiting for something to kind of just connect to that side of the previous episodes from the '90s, but I was very happy with everything. Like they did not hold back, and
mhm.
there's a lot of details. I took a lot of notes, so I made sure to to talk about all the different little references and like Easter eggs and throwbacks to pop culture.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh my god, yo, I remember that. You remember that? So
Mhm.
it was a great episode.
Yeah, for me, I thought it was another solid episode. I was looking forward to this Mojo episode only because, unlike, well, I won't say unlike a lot of fans, but I'm surprised that a lot of people, I hate to say this, but the people that I've talked to, they're not really feeling Mojo like that. He's like not really on people's top 10, villains list. But for me, I mean, well, just to put it in perspective, like in the original show, that those Mojo episodes were like my favorite episodes of the series because it kind of lets you kind of, go out of the monotony of the normal, drama and tensions that were going on through the show. And it would be like a side, type of just episode where you can just get away with doing anything. And with a character
Mm,
like Mojo, is perfectly fit for those type of silly, mundane type of stories. But even in the silly and mundane, it's still just a lot of fun because you get to just throw these characters, these super beings into like worlds that you wouldn't normally, see them in. And
Mm,
so in this X-Men 97, just to have her go into the world of the video game, which is just clever,
mm,
it's quite fitting for this day and age, because, games are so popular nowadays. I mean, it was popular back then, but it's like on a whole nother level now. And of
yeah.
course, since the original show, we had, movies like, The Matrix, we've had, movies like Tron and stuff like that. And so, I know you took notes. I'm sure you
Oh
took
yeah. Oh, I didn't know if you want to go deep cut, but like Tron reference in there, like Cyberpunk, like seeing that version of
Jubilee.
Jubilee,
Yeah.
yeah, and just like the whole landscape and everything with like the cyberpunk outfit and like the feel and the vibe with the
Mhm.
retro colors, you know.
Right. Right.
Uh, I mean, even let alone just initially when they went into the Mojo world or the cyber mainframe or whatever you want to call that setting. But
Mhm.
initially, when they got sucked in, when they're watching TV, I thought it was the organic technovirus initially, because the way the art style of it
Yeah.
looked
Yeah.
like they were infected initially when they got sucked into the TV, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so initially, I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And then eventually, you figured out that they were obviously not in um, the current universe that they were in.
Right. Right.
But I think like I was hoping to see Longshot.
He
Longshot.
was in the credits.
He was a crazy, yeah, but like I wanted to see him come and save the day for that brief period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was cool to see even like that Naruto moment with Jubilee, the futuristic Jubilee, I guess whatever
Mhm.
you want to call her, with the other Jubilee putting together their powers and then having like a Rasengan
Yeah.
Naruto moment
Yeah.
with that full blast. I was like, wow, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. That actually kind of touches on uh the potential that young Jubilee can become, because this older Jubilee, she's been able to master her powers. And,
Mm,
sometimes Jubilee gets a bad rap for being like, oh, well, she's got fireworks. That's not real power. But
mm,
in actuality, Jubilee can be extremely dangerous. I mean, if
mm,
she were to really cut loose and really take command of her powers, I know she's like in the show, she's 18, so which
mm,
is interesting that they mentioned that in the show. I think when she started, she was like, I would say at season one of the original show, I think she was like 14. I'm just
mm.
putting out the educated guess or whatever, but I would say she's like 14, 15 or something like that.
That
But
sounds about right.
say again.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean,
Yeah,
based
about
on
14. So she's kind of like new, and when she started, she was really kind of fresh and, learning about her powers and things like that. And so just seeing this older version of Jubilee, who's in total command of her powers and total ownership of the things that she can do. Like she was like skating on the
yeah.
firecracker, she turned into like spinners and stuff like that. It was just cool to see. And for the young Jubilee to see that, it's kind of like she kind of learned a lesson from her older self. We always in the science fiction slash geek community, we always say, what would you say to your younger self if you saw,
Mm,
your younger self or whatever? So this was kind of like one of those meta type of moments where she was able
right.
uh to get a lesson from her older self who's been there and done that kind of thing. So I thought that
Mm.
was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
yeah.
You remember that one scene? So we got to see the Blob, we got to see Gladiator, we got to see Banshee in one of the scenes because obviously they're virtual programs, but just seeing them present, it I was super hyped because I'm like, all right, you guys are just kind of giving feelers out now. Like I'm waiting for them to kind of have some shine and futurist, some other episodes down the line.
Mhm.
But I just love the existence of other characters in this universe,
Yeah.
um
You like
uh
what's that in Living Color joke? Don't just tease me and walk away. I want
uh,
it all.
that
You
leads
want it
into
all, don't you?
yeah, that even leads into like the the reference of different world, man, like
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
shot,
You caught
that
that.
one
Yeah,
epic shot. I was like, yo, that's
I
the
know,
real
right?
world.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. A
Oh
lot of
man.
people probably didn't catch that, but I definitely caught that little ad and everything. And I
It's got to
know
be a nice.
you know Kadeem Hardison, the one who plays Dwayne Wade in the show. He's actually
Yeah,
a big Marvel fan. I don't know if
is
you,
he?
yeah, I follow him
Oh,
on Instagram, so he's really a big Marvel fan. And so I was like, I wonder if he caught this. And sure enough, he
right.
went to his I went to his Instagram and he put in his stories about how they, you know, showed that on X-Men 97. But anyway, that's just a little tidbit. I'm
Yeah,
a real big Marvel guy. So, but
yeah. You know the movie Stay Tuned. The Chris what's his name? You know, John Ritter. You know, it was like I think it was late '80s, early '90s.
yeah,
It
way
was
back, right? Yeah.
it was like breaking the fourth wall, but like it was a TV remote that was able to teleport people into different TV shows and different alternate universes. So
Mm,
Mojo World kind of is similar in that way. And in this case, you know, they had different references from like the '90s episodes of just throwing things against the wall, like you said earlier. It's like that's a fun side episode quest of being in a predicament of trying to get out of Mojo World, and Mojo World being this lunatic,
yeah,
crazy
yeah,
sociopath that he is, and also him looking like he lost weight initially. I was like, why did they make him
yeah.
look like
I
a
know,
lot?
right?
And then I was like, yo, I missed the old, chubby version of him. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden he's like, oh, we went back, and I was like, okay, good. I
Well, you
like those.
know, that kind of ties into what he was saying about how didn't he say something to the fact where he was losing ratings, and so he said that he feeds off of the
Mm,
ratings. And so
mm,
notice when they actually started to, you know, travel through the games and the conquests and things like that, his weight came back. So that was
ah,
kind of like a little something. It was kind of like really subtle, good
okay.
writing there, where it's like, okay, he's getting ratings, so he's feeding off these higher ratings, so he's getting big again. Because I was thinking the
Oh,
same thing. I was like, Mojo don't look too healthy, you know. And
yeah.
he said it. He said, you know, he did a
That
little,
that
you know.
that went over my head. I was realizing I was like, what just happened? I didn't rewind it to what he said, but
Yeah,
yeah, that I overlooked that part. But that's cool, cool little
yeah, yeah,
detail
yeah.
there.
Also, interestingly enough, you know, the original voice actor, you know, I'm always talking about the voices. The original voice actor of Jubilee did the voice of older Jubilee. So a lot of people, I don't know if they caught that or not. So I thought that was kind of cool. So
I found that out too actually a few days ago. I saw the posting, and I think the original wanted the the um, the current version to be played by an actual I think Asian American, or I
right,
forget,
right.
something along those lines. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh, that's very modest of her to pass on that torch,
yes. Yeah, it's
the
commendable. But you know,
representation.
at the same token, I still I wanted them all to be a part of the show. And so it's good to see that they are serving part of the show in some, you know, form or fashion. And so this was great for her too. This was a great
Mm,
episode. Uh she still got to play. It's kind of like, you know, she's playing her older self and she's passing the torch on
mm.
this young actor, and she's in character passing the torch on to her younger self. So it's kind of like meta on two different levels. You know what I'm saying? So I thought
Yeah,
it was kind of cool.
yeah. Oh, one other thing we overlooked also, Judge Gray. So you know how we went to a different world?
Mhm.
They had like different TV shows, kind of like a spin-off kind of version. But
Yeah,
instead of like Judge Judy or Judge Joe Brown or Judge whoever that we see on the sitcom, the court TV shows, you know that I'm
mhm.
talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
And a little reference in there. It was like, oh, Judge Gray. Like,
yeah. I thought it was divorce court.
was it divorce court? I thought I
Yeah.
swore that I saw Judge Gray. Maybe I had like a Judge Gray divorce court or something like that.
Oh,
But
okay, okay. Yeah, because I remember
things
saying,
went by fast. You know.
yeah, because I remember it said divorce court, Gene and Scott divorce court or something like that. And so
Mm,
I was like, oh, okay, so they're heading for divorce after you know, Scott got with the wrong one, huh?
right.
You know. But
Yeah. They went into also Savage Land at one point too, right?
uh
Um,
did they
at
go to
one
the
point.
oh yeah, you know what? Actually, that was the Savage Land of the arcade game, X-Men Arcade. So
Mm,
the side scroller, that was like the level where, you know, they had all the Saurons and pterodactyls, you know, coming out of nowhere and
mm,
stuff. You know, that game was just such a beat 'em up or whatever. But that
mm.
was, yeah, I think that was a Savage Land, but it was a Savage Land of the actual video game. So that
Okay.
was cool. But it was something else you had mentioned to piggyback off of that first scene. Oh, the scene when uh um when they were in Genosha. That was actually
Oh,
a callback to season one.
yes.
Yeah, Slave
Yeah.
Island. When
There was a couple of mutants, that they had the neck bracelet, that kind of um, toned down their abilities or whatever.
mhm.
So behind, when people were like being in the slave labor in the back, you saw a couple of mutants in there. One of them is like I thought was Sunspot, the original, or maybe I'm mixing up somebody, but I did also see Aztec. I thought also briefly, Aztec. Um, but the current version of Sunspot is that kid that's with Jubilee in this current version. I could be mixing up people, but the one mutant that's like red and white who has like pyro abilities.
Oh yeah, that was Sunfire.
Sunfire. Okay, so
Sunfire.
I'm
Yeah,
mixing
yeah.
Sunfire and Sunspot. Okay,
Yeah. That was Sunfire.
okay.
I don't think Sunspot was I don't know. He could have been like somewhere in the background, but I don't think so. I know that was Sunfire that was a part of the episode because I remember he had like a couple of lines. He was like, "You lead us to trouble, girl. Go to sleep," or something like that.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
it was something like that. But yeah, that
Right,
was
right.
Sunfire. But yeah, I thought that was a cool callback to that first season. I think it was called Slave Island or something like that.
Yes, yeah,
So that
something
was a
like
cool callback.
that.
Um,
Mhm.
what else? What else about so you enjoyed the voice acting and the characterizations and everything?
Yeah, I was sucked in. It was just a smooth episode.
Okay.
I was like, at one point, I had to kind of just make sure how far into the episode we are because I was like, this is great. I need more. I don't want it to end. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because eventually went into at one point with Storm, right? And I guess that may lead into another conversation, but
No, because we about to go right there. Let's talk about that.
okay.
Life Death Part One. What did you think about? First of all, did you think? How did you feel about them splitting the episodes up into two-parters? Did you feel like the life death story could have been a full episode? Do you think it could have been like a full one-part episode and then another part two episode, or do you feel it was rushed, or how do you feel about what they did with life death?
Um, I thought they did a good job, the best of their ability of trying to manage the different storylines that are happening right now. Obviously you had the Mojo World, and there's only so much you can do in Mojo World without really not like tying loose ends, and you got to really manage that story and wrap it up to a degree where you kind of want more later on, where Mojo eventually will come through again at some point later down the line, and
Yeah,
it kind of loses, it gets our palate, wanting a little bit more, but we also have to kind of pivot a little bit to other storylines that are going on as well. And I think it was a great way to put it together because I felt like the timing and the pacing and everything was well done.
yeah.
uh and yeah, it was definitely something I was questioning. I was like, I hope they kind of cover something else as well in here
Mhm.
because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. But I think for me, um, I think the life death story I thought is great with what they did because I know they're trying to really kind of keep the story moving forward. And I kind of acknowledged that okay, what they're doing here is it was kind of a passage of time between the last episode where we saw Forge meeting Storm in that bar. So they
Mm,
never really tell us how much time passed. So I'm assuming it was like several months because
mm,
she's and we pick up where she's actually living with him. They've had like a rapport. They've had, obviously he talked her into trying to, get her powers back. So I'm guessing it was a couple of months. And so I just thought the part where he tells her that he loves her,
mm,
I thought that was just the conversation that they've had up until that point and giving us that impression that they've had, this build, through the passage of time. It seemed genuine. I mean, I realize they're trying to move the story forward, but it did seem genuine. Um, and just the voice acting, just the subtleties in the way they're portraying these characters is just magnificent. I mean, I got to give it up for Allison Seeley Smith, the voice of Storm.
mm,
She's
mm,
doing a great job. I really enjoyed the way she her tonality is matching with the animation and everything is kind of like matching up with the visuals and especially the scene where she's trying to reach out to call down the storm, and she still can't do it, and you can feel the emotion in her voice. And I just
Mm,
think that that's just her voice acting is perfect. And then there was another one. I'll let you get in, but there was another scene where uh, she was about to get inside of the machine, and she took a deep breath, and you can hear the nerves in her gas. She was like, and it was kind of
mm,
like it was so many things on that in that gas because one, she's nervous about getting her powers back, and two, you remember they really touched on this in the arc of her character in not only the first season but this season, but they touched on the fact that she is claustrophobic. And so
mm.
her about to get in that machine, that was
Ah,
like another second layer of acting performance that I thought was just done perfectly. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I thought the visuals was great of the episode. Every frame looked like a screensaver for my computer. I was like, man, I just want to capture every screen, you know. Um,
right.
and what else? I was gonna say something else. Yeah, everything, the visuals is great. Um, I also wanted you in your when I asked you about this particular life death arc, do you feel that um maybe Storm kind of overreacted to Forge's involvement with the inhibitor collars? Because I don't know. I mean, he said that, it was a time in his past when, he was kind of pressed for, just trying to make ends meet and he was trying to like,
Mm,
get ahead. And, he did of course, we know the inhibitor collars are wrong,
right.
but it was kind of like he was pressed against the wall and he had to do it. And he kind of made amends for it and, kind of repented for that or whatever.
Mm.
Do you think that she overreacted, or how do you think that scene could have been handled? And overall, what did you think, of the episode?
Yeah. So I think like those details that you mentioned earlier are really great because like sometimes we kind of need to rewatch something to kind of pick up on those little subtleties.
Mhm.
Something to keep in mind is like, she just lost her powers, and obviously, the span of time we're not 100% sure how far after that incident occurred, but like her already kind of going through this period of grief, right? Her powers is part of her identity, and I think that kind of being stolen, taken away from her, is in a way, and you can kind of make different analogies, but like almost uh, it's part of her identity taken away, where she's now in a point of where she needs to cope and find ways of dealing with grief. And I think very she's at a point where she's very vulnerable.
Right, right.
And and I think this is very good like decision making on this episode. It's like we went from something fast track and fun into now kind of a little bit more of something serious and like actual things that people deal with. And it's like if somebody maybe sexually assaulted you, let's pretend for instance, right?
Mhm.
Or stolen something from you. Is this is kind of an analogy I think in life where it's like, wow, like I feel naked or I feel very vulnerable, and now
Helpless. Yeah.
how do I deal with that, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And I think she's at that point where she just found out that Forge made those inhibitors on top of that. So her emotions are kind of off
Kind of high.
balance a little bit, right? So
Right.
and it was I thought it was a great decision on the scene of like him trying to show his, him being transparent and telling her everything, and her reacting is normal. Her trying to forgive him immediately is not something that happens in life, and then eventually, he's got to kind of work toward it. And this is like good character development, I think,
Oh
on
yeah.
top of that story building, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's it's a very like when you really think about it, deeper layers. It's a very like well done episode,
Oh yeah.
and on top of that, like the moment where they're kind of looking the scenery after they went horseback riding and the edge of the cliff, it's like him making that reference in that quote of like to her, how fast the weather can change, right? That's
Mhm.
like a pretty well known quote, um, and it I think it all applies together. So I thought it was things they're not doing things that we quite expect, and I love that. They're catching us by surprise
Oh
in
yeah,
the decisions that they're making, and I'm at the edge of my seat. I loved everything about the episode.
yeah, yeah. No, old Forge. I don't know. I think is he a is he kind of a playboy in the comics? Because he was kind of putting down that man talk, right? He was putting
He
some
got that.
real man. He was like, "I'm only going to tell you this once, and you'll
He
never
got that.
say it again. I love you, girl." I was like, "Oh, okay, Forge, putting it down like that. Okay, let
He
me
got
take
that
some
Star
notes on
Wars.
this." You know,
He got that Lando. You know that Lando Suave
right,
from
right,
Star
right,
Wars.
right. He's like, "Look at girl." He turned her around. Look at girl.
Yep, yep, exactly.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
what?
man.
And that was even wild. You know, when she started hearing voices, I was like, who could that be? Like, or like I don't know, those brief moments of flashes of her powers being kind of tampered with a little bit, or her having a psychic um flash or something. I'm not sure what exactly that was, but
Talking about at
we
the end when the crow or whatever came out. I thought that was a Shadow King at first, to be
so
honest.
yeah, that's my first thought too. The Shadow King from like when she was in Africa, right in the '90s. Remember with
Yeah,
her son.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I thought that was my thought was brewing, but then I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, this is the villain called the Adversary. Not sure if you know much about that
Oh,
villain.
okay. I got to read up on that character. I know one
Yeah,
thing. He bit the heck out of Forge, didn't he? I mean, he chomped into his shoulder. I was like,
yeah.
that looked like
He
that
looked like
hurt.
he looked like one of those aliens, man, like straight out of freaking the shy. The what is it called? The from the Alien movie. I forget which one it was.
A xenomorph, right?
Yeah, Xenomorph. Yeah, exactly. I was like, who the hell is that? But
Yeah.
yeah, like I have a lot of questions now, and I think they wrapped up well, and I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, another solid episode. I'm running out of time here. This clock is running out, but yeah, we had another solid episode. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what to expect. Like I said, you already ruined it for yourself. You know all the episodes. I don't. So I can honestly say I really don't know what to expect. I know I'm just looking for I want to see I don't know who I want to see. I guess I want to see them. I want to see Scott and Jean. You know, I want to see their conversations because we just skipped over that this episode, and we had a little fun as well as the seriousness. But I want to see their relationship. Also, you know what? One thing I wanted to add real quick is I'm really impressed about how they're added. This show is managing to add even more depth to the
Mm,
characters than what was done in the original series. And what was done in the original series was fantastic. And for them to
mm,
be able to come in and add depth to the characters even more so with each episode is just fantastic. So
mm.
I don't know,
Yeah,
any further wrap up thoughts you want to mention?
yeah, definitely wrap up thoughts, and what I'm looking forward to is seeing where Gambit is in terms of his position, in
He's in
terms of
therapy.
yeah, he probably therapy. Who knows what he could went back to Louisiana, and you know what I mean, eating gumbo and crawfish. You never know, man. But
Uh,
yeah, I need some answers in terms of how he's coping with things, and then kind of seeing where Rogue and Magneto's relationship kind of started. Maybe a
yeah,
little flashback of that.
yeah.
Um, I need to see Cable at some point.
Oh, we
Uh,
definitely will get him.
with my dude Bishop going back in time or going to the future, shall I say?
Mm,
Um, and then yeah, dealing with the techno organic virus that the baby Nathan Gray is dealing with, and then at some point I need to see the Juggernaut, man. Like,
right.
come on! I want him to
Well,
thrash around and see what happens.
you know, I want to see Sabretooth. Where's Sabretooth and
Ah,
Apocalypse? We probably won't get Apocalypse this season. We might get him next season or third season or something like that. So
yeah,
I want to see. But
yeah. I just want more. Last thing is, I just want more quotes, like memorable quotes from the '90s. That's all
oh
I gotta
yeah,
say.
yeah. Did you pick up on that big dinosaur TV that was in Jubilee's room? I haven't seen one of
Oh
those in years. The big TV
yeah,
we used to have, the little heavy TVs with everything in it,
yeah,
you have to lift it up, you know.
yeah.
I
I
love
remember that. I broke my back as a kid. Shoot.
that. Well,
Uh,
we've come to another end of this review of X-Men 97, episode 4, Motendo, Life Death number 1. Teddy, I want to thank you for joining me on this review. Hopefully, we'll have you in the next episode reviews. Tell the people where they can find you and what you're doing next.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. You can find me on IG at tbiz158, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode on Wednesday, and talk to you guys again.
Cool, cool. It's good having you, man. You can also find me on all of the interwebs, just at Quaj Universe. And until next time, I'll see you on the universe, in the universe. Hey, look, I'm still new at this, man. Peace out. All right, guys.